Today we're going to learn about the past continuous tense, also called the past progressive tense. This tense is used to describe actions that were in progress at a specific moment in the past. In other words, it tells us what was happening at a particular time before now. We often use this tense when we talk about activities, stories, or situations that were continuing in the past. First, let's look at how we form the past continuous. The structure is was were plus verb plus ing. We use was with I, he, she, it and were with you, we, they. For example, I was playing football, you were playing football, she was playing football, we were playing football, they were playing football. The verb always takes the ing form, such as playing, running, watching, training, or jogging. For instance, we can say, the team was training in the field, the fans were cheering in the stadium, the goalkeeper was protecting the goal, the athletes were exercising in the gym. Now let's look at negative sentences. To make the past continuous negative, we add not after was or were. In everyday English we often use contractions, wasn't and weren't. For example, I wasn't playing football, they weren't jogging in the park, she wasn't diving in the pool, we weren't watching the match, the referee wasn't speaking to the players. The structure is subject plus was were plus not plus verb-ing. Next, let's look at questions. To make questions, we invert the subject and the verb to be. That means was or were comes before the subject. For example, was I playing football? Were you watching the match? Was he training at the gym? Were they competing in the championship? Short answers are simple, yes, I was, yes, they were, no, I wasn't, no, they weren't. We can also ask WH questions to get more information. We put the question word at the beginning of the sentence. For example, what were you watching? Where were the athletes training? Why was the competitor running so fast? When were they playing the final? How long were you exercising? These questions help us ask about actions that were happening in the past. Now let's look at the main uses of the past continuous. First, we use it for actions that were in progress at a specific time in the past. For example, we were playing tennis at 6 p.m. yesterday, the team was training at the gym last night, the fans were watching the final on television, the referee was talking to the players during the match. In these cases, the action was continuing at that moment. Another common use is when two actions were happening at the same time. In these sentences we often use the word while. For example, I was jogging in the park while my brother was ice skating at the rink, the coach was giving instructions while the athletes were exercising, the fans were cheering while the team was playing the final. Both actions were happening at the same time. We also use the past continuous when a longer action in progress is interrupted by a shorter action. In these cases, we usually use the word when. For example, I was exercising at the gym when I saw an old friend, the team was playing football when it suddenly started to rain, the competitor was running in the race when he fell. Here the continuous action describes the background activity. Another important use is when we describe the background of a story in the past. For example, the sun was shining and the athletes were training on the field, the fans were cheering and the players were running across the court, everyone was enjoying the match and the atmosphere was exciting. The past continuous helps create the scene in a story. We can also use the past continuous with always, constantly, or forever to describe repeated actions that annoyed the speaker. For example, he was always arriving late to practice, she was constantly complaining about the coach, the players were always arguing with the referee. In these sentences the words always or constantly appear between was or were and the verbing form. Another use is with going to in the past to talk about a plan that changed. For example, I was going to compete in the marathon, but I changed my mind, we were going to watch the championship final, but we stayed at home instead. This shows an intention that did not happen. Finally, remember an important rule: we normally do not use the past continuous with stative verbs, such as know, like, believe, or understand. For example, we do not say, he was liking the competition. Instead, we say, he liked the competition. To summarize, the past continuous tense is formed with was or were plus verbing and is used to describe actions that were happening in the past, background situations in stories, two simultaneous actions, or actions interrupted by another event. Learning this tense will help you describe past events, sports activities, and situations in a clearer and more detailed way.